Have you ever wondered how much of who you are is shaped by your environment around you? And how much is truly, authentically you? Maybe you've even sat up late at night despairing over, man, how much of me is truly me? Where does it start? Where does it end? Is there anything about me that was not instilled as a child? Well, to tackle this very serious topic, we are looking to the hit animated film Megamind.
Welcome to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast, where we explore connections between the movies we love and the stories we live. We are friends and colleagues with backgrounds in storytelling, filmmaking, teaching, and narrative therapy. Join us on our quest to unlock the power of storytelling for your life. I'm Derek Hatch.
My name is Nick Natal.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph Wilson.
I'm Jason Lynn. All right, guys, we have just watched one of the greatest animated films of its time. Unfortunately, it was, I believe, overshadowed by Despicable Me.
Yes,
because
you are
they
correct.
both came out
At the same time.
and that led to it not being as well received. We can also look, and I would say it's not as safe of a movie as Despicable Me. Despicable Me is more for
the masses.
kids
For the
and,
masses.
Yeah.
and 50-plus-year-old adults.
It's
That's the Minions right there. They
Yeah.
got them.
That's
Got a
tough.
grip on the baby boomer generation.
And it's the
tight grip.
The Facebookers.
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't say this is not an insult.
Yeah, it's tough. This came out in 2010,
Mhm.
and they were dedeveloping these movies at the same time.
years
DreamWorks was developing Megamind, and Illumination, which I think that was Illumination's first ever film,
Mm-hmm.
was Despicable Me. Now, what's interesting,
best,
the weird
probably.
thing is that both of those animation studios have ties to Universal Studios.
Oh.
So why Universal Studios thought we're just gonna have two different villain movies? Like it's
I mean, they still
it's
get money.
weird. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
But I think releasing them so close together, I think that did hurt Megamind for sure. Because I think the comparison is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
You see, Charlie, I just play both sides because I always come out on top. That's how it is. But being that it was not as well received, like we said, two main villain character movies. And I'll be honest, I saw commercials of this and I thought, wow, another stupid looking animated movie that is just garbage that they're pumping out for kids. What a complete... who cares? Whatever. I'm not going to see this crap.
Well, how old were you
That's
during
alley-oop
that
right
time?
now.
Because, like,
2010? Wow, 2010.
that was 15 years ago. So,
Dang.
yeah, it's 15
Can't do the
years
math.
ago.
Well, I don't think I paid
just
attention
got the
to when
photo.
it came out, so it was years afterwards that I was thinking about it.
Oh, you didn't watch it when it first came out.
No, I didn't
Oh,
even
okay.
like recognize. I saw, I think, kids watching it,
Mhm.
so I might have been like 4 years after it
I don't
came
think
out.
I've even heard of it until you started to mention it.
No,
Yeah,
I actually saw it in theaters.
really, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you saw
I've
it in
heard of
theaters when it,
Despicable Me, though, but not Megamind.
you saw it when it first came
was
out.
like literally overshadowed. I didn't want to go to see Despicable Me because that's the one I was like, oh, that seems like a stupid kid movie. But-
Not dark enough.
Yeah, I was like, I need to slaughter, but
I like them
we
both.
need water.
They
We need the
almost
rabbits.
kill kids. I think I first saw Megamind at our job.
Oh, really?
Oh,
It was being played
interesting.
at our job, and I was like, oh, they're putting this crap on, whatever. And then I saw the opening scene
Mm-hmm.
where they're fleeing from the planets, and he just gets shot right into the prison
Yep.
and grows up in prison. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait. I kind of want to see this now. This is different. And
Throwing kids in prison.
And then-
yeah.
and when they
Babies.
yeah,
little
babies, and then not remove them from prison, but just
Mhm.
go, yep,
Yeah.
that's where you
That's where you belong.
that's where you stay.
Super meta where you saw it.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
We're
essentially
gonna ruminate on that.
it's essentially Superman if Superman was not raised by the Kents, but was raised, by this.
Prison and
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not even just in prison, just more like keeping him in a role that he never wanted to be in,
Right.
regardless.
Mhm. Well, isn't Megamind supposed to be Brainiac?
Yeah, that's kind. I
Oh,
kind of
true.
thought that same thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
because
think
I'm
about
like,
that till now,
there's
yeah.
kind of There's
It's Superman and
definitely
Brainiac.
a Superman-esque
This is the
thing
only
going on.
Superman and Brainiac movie we've gotten.
But
Yeah.
they're-
Oh, how sad
But they're thwarting the hero archetype
Mhm.
they are. They're
Like,
subverting
completely.
and playing around with a lot of things.
a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, and that's one thing that this movie has that Despicable Me doesn't have is this movie has Guillermo del Toro as the creative consultant.
That's awesome. What is
Yes.
that?
So basically, when a movie is in development and they hit certain roadblocks, they have certain people that they might reach out to, and they might say, hey, here's kind of where we're at right now. Now, they reached out to Del Toro very late in the game of making the film. Usually they do this earlier. They've convinced them to cut out 7 minutes of finished footage, which for an animated film, that's like a big deal because you normally don't cut. There aren't really deleted scenes often.
The full Megamind cut.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Del
want to
Toro,
see the forbidden Megamind footage.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
7 minutes.
but Del Toro,
Del Toro cut.
really, the Del Toro, no,
That's
the
crazy.
anti-Del Toro cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too much info I could find about what got cut out and why,
That's
but
crazy.
basically he just felt like the movie was too overstuffed and it needed to be more focused.
Mm.
So a lot of the stuff with like the way the movie's framed, like the framing device and all that kind of stuff narratively,
Yeah.
all came from him.
Okay.
So he was really there to try to get the movie more focused on these archetypes you're going to talk
It
about.
feels focused.
And I think he
yeah.
took away a lot of the extra stuff that distracted away from that.
All right.
So
I like that.
can you go ahead and do the letterbox for this?
Letterboxed.
A superhero movie with a mind of its own. After Megamind, a highly intelligent alien supervillain defeats his longtime nemesis Metro Man, Megamind creates a new hero to fight, but must act to save the city when his creation becomes an even worse villain than he was.
So we're starting a new series with Megamind here. And the keyword that you use, Jason, in your intro there is something that actually, Nick, you texted in the group to us when we started throwing these films out there. And that's the word authentic.
Mm.
These films not only feel authentic to who we are, but coincidentally enough, all of these stories are about authenticity. Like that is actually a theme in each of these stories that we're going to talk about.
Mm.
So as we get into Megamind and these other films, try to keep that idea of authenticity at the forefront of you. So Jason, where do you want to start taking us
So
through?
I want to start with the main reason. I ain't no scientist and I'm not a psychologist, but there is an excellent video series that was done very closely to what I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's from a woman named Sylvia that does a series called Beyond Therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a self-development coach, and she does a really, really great job going into the archetypes
Mm-hmm.
of the characters in the story and the just kind of the psychology of what's going on. She talks about Megamind's archetype and, of course, Metro Man and Roxanne and the other characters, and also kind of just the things that are going on behind Megamind's actions and what he's feeling.
Yeah.
And also how she had a really cool thing about how Minion represents Megamind's moral compass in
Mhm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I wanted to talk about was this idea of nature and nurture.
Yeah, that's
And,
kind of what I picked up too on the film.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's what really sets it apart from, I think, a lot of animated films. It is not as like, there isn't some cutesy little animal to bring the children in or to make the parents laugh. It's something real going on here about development. And also, like, we work with kids and we're seeing stuff. And
Mhm.
I was thinking how much of who I am is influenced by what was said about me or to me
Mm-hmm.
as a child, and like how much really came from how I was born. And because there is scientific research going into, does personality come from genetics at
Right.
all? And some say that it does. So that would mean that we do carry something that's passed down, if that's true, but also it's both working together. And so I wanted to get into first Megamind and Metro Man because these are the two who are playing this theater,
Mm-hmm.
this game. And
Theater's a good word for
yeah.
it.
So they're in a charade. They are putting on masks that were given to them at birth and saying this is what we must do, and they have no choice in the matter. So we're gonna go over the nature first, and these are the characteristics that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, some of it is the content from the YouTuber that I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
And so we see Megamind. He is coming from a broken home. He says it
Yeah.
because his planet is being sucked into a black hole.
Yeah.
And he's using humor throughout this, but it's really sad. His parents give him two things when they send him off. They give him a companion, a friend, who is the caretaker role, minion, to take care of him, and they give him his binky, but it's a power source. It's literally like a small generator. And so they equip him. They give him a friend and a companion,
A conscience.
a conscience, and a moral compass, and they give him the power to act out his unique gifts because they both got big old heads, and he's got one. So this intelligence is inherently genetic. It's passed down. It's part of their race's
It's inherited. Pretty
uniqueness.
much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's inherited. So that's his nature right there. They gave him something that he is going to use to carry out his creativity, his inventiveness. Like he is able to use that to create things, and he's going to. And they send him off in a rickety spaceship, and that represents like an unstable environment. Like he's given good things, but it's not the safest ride. And the other guy, Mr. Goody Two Shoes, has a very safe ride. He's alone, and he gets sent to a good family.
Like a
privileged family, huge house, but dad doesn't even look up from his newspaper. He's flying around, and he says something, "Oh, nothing but the best for you, dear." So that's the word that's around Metro Man, is nothing but the best. It's way up here. And Megamind just gets shot into prison, and they're like, "Oh, can we keep him?" And he's just like taught by the prisoners what right and wrong is. And right here, we have the system just failing a child. They don't go, "Wait a minute, no, like we have to find this kid a home." There's just and it's a movie, so I get it. That's
but still, it's
crazy.
just like, we'll just keep this baby inside this prison.
And they put him they sent him to school in an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
It's insane. What Sylvie was talking about is there is these two giftings for each person that one society favors and the other it shuns. So I want to do Metro Man too. He's strong. He's confident. We see that because he has a stable spaceship, goes smoothly through space. He has a stable environment, not like Megamind. He's strong. He's fast. He's basically like invincible. And the confidence and that lack of a fear of failure goes along with that. And then we also see something in the beginning that he is playing guitar. He's playing a musical instrument, or a ukulele, I think it is. And clearly Megamind is inventive. He's creative. He makes a little tricycle out of license plates. And now we see the words slipping. Well, the words were actually earlier for Megamind. His parents give him these things, and they say, "You are destined for," and that's it. It's cut off. So right at the beginning, Megamind has the belief and the ideology that his life is guided by fate, and he has no idea what it is. That part was left out. He's like, that must have been important. But he's going to live his life as if he is destined for something. He has a role he has to fill, and he doesn't know what it is, and he's searching for it. So as a young boy, he is given this quest to find out what his purpose is, and he's desperate for it. He's desperate for attention. He is shunned. He says evil is put in the corner, and what's really happening is he's trying to fit in. He's trying to have kids, hang out with him.
Yeah, but like opening up in his own unique way, which it's interesting because when you talk about Metro Man, like he's like you said, he's a strong one, he's a built one, and like society really even looks towards those aspects like more, or like elevates those aspects more than even like in like intelligence in a way.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, like with the athletes and like movie stars, like their beauty, their outer perfection, more than like their inner thoughts or like the creativity of what can be brought out.
And what you're saying, like his giftings require trial and error. And so he's failing in front of them. And it's sad because what he's doing in his mind is called evil. So evil is put in the corner, even though he's failing and he's trying things and they're not working out. and it's chaos, it's mischief,
Yeah.
it's all this stuff. It's now been given a label evil. This is what you do as evil, and this guy is good. And so he's trying to fight and get out of it. Or he's told, you're a bad kid.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing bad kid stuff. This is a good kid right here. But he's left to stay in the corner. He's left to be a bad kid.
Yeah.
No one pulls him aside. No one takes on the role of minion for him as a caretaker. His caretaker is a fish in a bowl. That's it. The system, again, is failing him because the teacher could come around him. Metro Man could come around him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else. Metro Man wasn't given a companion. He was given a bunch of kids to rule over, kind of. But once Megamind goes, oh, if I'm bad and maybe that's what I'm supposed to be, then I'm just gonna dive into this. If I'm supposed to be a bad kid, if I'm, or in some extreme cases, what people think, oh, if I'm going to hell, then I'm going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And
or even if this is the environment that I'm in, this is the only environment that I know, I'm going to be stuck in this forever. I might as well just embrace this environment.
Or this is the world, then this is how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he dives into it, but what that also does is he chooses Metro Man as a rival, and now he traps him into this theater. It's not necessarily Metro Man that does it, because he was already existing and being, oh, look at me. But now Megamind has trapped him in this rivalry. And now Metro Man has to defend. Megamind has to, and here's the thing, we don't even know Metro Man's real name.
Yeah.
We just know his superhero name, his moniker. We're never told what his actual name is. That identity is buried and it's hidden in the past. And I think that's something that was really dear to him, because where does Metro Man hide his identity?
In the old schoolhouse.
Under the schoolhouse. But isn't that interesting? He hides under the schoolhouse. He hides in his innocence, in his childhood. He tries to go back.
Yeah.
And what is he? We're getting ahead of ourselves, but what?
No, keep going, because I'm locked in right now.
What does he go back to?
His guitar.
He goes back to music. Because we see him playing.
I'm Metro Man.
Growing out your hair long.
That's Llewyn Davis, dude.
But I like the part in the video that the psychologist said that the gifts of Megamind were internal, and so those aren't really easily seen, and the external ones are validated.
Yeah.
So it's sports and athleticism that is validated. But there was a part where she also says where Metro Man's on the water, and it could look like he's boasting and walking on water, but he's actually trying to isolate himself from
the people, because they would trample each other to get to him.
Yeah.
The woman kisses his foot as he goes by.
And
like
he's trying to find a sense of himself even in the midst of all of this. I thought that was cool. And so what does he go back to? He goes back to music.
Yeah.
What am I going back to? I'm going back to movies.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
And childhood stuff too. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so but he's like surrounded by,
He's surrounded
by, but there's still his ego that's there that was built up. And that is a thing that he still has. He still has a big ego. He does. And that comes with the high rewards and the accomplishments and all the praise that he received. He's been privileged, and that was thrust on him too, in a way.
Yeah.
But he goes back to music, and he's not. What made it better is that he's not that good. But when would he ever have time to practice or even sing? His whole identity is tied up with the city, Metro Man. Yeah. And when he's talking and he's on the water, he goes, sometimes I wonder, what would I be without you, the helpless people of Metro City? And it's almost like they have trapped him in.
Yeah.
And like, because they cannot do anything for themselves, he has what they do not have, which is a choice. And I'm getting right into the middle of the movie, a little ahead of whatever, but that's fine.
I think you're flowing. No, I think you're flowing. You're flowing. Yeah.
So they're both crying out for authenticity, right? Megamind is been in this role that was destined in a way for him. And you have Metro Man, who just wants to play music. And that line is so good though, where he's like,
he wants to choose.
He wants to choose. He wants to have a say, right?
Yeah.
And this is so we talk about
a choice in his life.
So in narrative therapy, like we have similar language for the nature versus nurture debate. So the nature side of it we call internal states. So these are things that are innate in you, that are there. They're a part of who you are. You can't really change them. You can't really do anything with them.
Yeah.
Your attributes, your strengths, your weaknesses. Like there's a lot of things in there that you just have to learn to leverage, right? Personality is like a whole big web. I just did a workshop last week on archetypes with a group, and we got into a whole spider web of a conversation about archetypes and all that stuff in terms of like, well, is it like internal? Is it intentional? Is it nature? Is it nurture? So a lot of narrative related stuff is actually more on the nurture side, which is called intentional states. And I've told you guys about these before. These are things that you do have a say over. You can decide what skills and knowledge you want to pursue in life. You can decide what your values and your beliefs are going to be. You can choose what you're going to hope for, what you're going to dream of, right? So you really see that tension here laid out in this film with both these characters. And it's so brilliant because the poster on Letterboxd, if you have like a good poster and one image should communicate what the film is without words. And the poster at Letterboxd is actually genius. So hold that up, Jason. So for those of you listening at home.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so those of you listening at home, it's Megamind in the top left corner, and he's got a certain look, and it's got Metro Man on the bottom right corner,
much doing the same
and he's
thing.
Got the same look as Megamind.
Yeah.
And
they've got their eyebrows raised mischievously.
Yes, and it's brilliant because
it looks like Step Brothers to be.
It kind of does.
just two brothers.
Will Ferrell reference there. So what I love about this poster, because I was staring at it like for a while, and it's brilliant because they are two sides of the same coin. They have been cast into the idealist hero archetype for Metro Man and the outlaw villainous archetype for Megamind, but they're literally the same. They want the same thing ultimately, which is they're crying out for that authenticity. And so it kind of erodes that line between hero and villain.
Yeah.
Which is what I think a great like superhero story is really trying to do, is show how the hero and villain, there's a connection forming between them. And that scene later in the movie when Megamind meets Metro Man and Metro Man kind of explains, he explains
why.
like what yeah, exactly. I thought that I saw that and I was like, oh, that's a great writing decision there to get there.
And sorry.
I want to catch up Megamind before we go right into that moment on Megamind side.
I wasn't going to go into that moment. I was going to say, even with the poster, though, to piggyback with that, the most, when we're looking at the letterbox, the photo over it is with Megamind with Roxanne. And I know we haven't talked about Roxanne yet, but Roxanne is the most authentic character in this movie.
Yes.
And she's searching, she's as a seeker archetype character. The seeker archetype is searching for authenticity.
Truth.
Like they want to be authentic and they want to be near authenticity.
And that's why she gets so entranced and pretty much falls in love with Megamind, because his true authentic self is like a loving and kind person, more than she even like saw with like Megamind or not Megamind, Metro Man.
Really crazy that we did this.
Metro Man just wasn't our type.
Yeah. That's strong.
Crazy. Which is like spitting on the Superman and Lois thing. It's like it doesn't have to be that role.
It's really crazy that we did this in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and both of those films have reporter female characters that have to bring the protagonist into a fuller. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
Anyways, keep going, Jason.
So we've kind of caught up Metro Man to where we need to.
Yeah.
But in the video, she was saying like it's almost like WWE when they're talking to each other. They're just like,
it's very fake and rehearsed, forced. Yeah.
And Roxanne's just like, I'm actually fine, whatever. And she's not.
She's the only authentic one there.
Yeah. She's like, it's whatever. And she's not afraid because Megamind's idea of a villain is like from cartoons.
Yeah.
It's just like
the spiders knew. Yes.
The spider. With single bite from Arachnus deathicus.
But hey, his fits though, I would have what
the fits are crazy. Yeah. I'd do the Black Mamba. Bro.
Heck yeah, I need that cape.
but like they're all like cartoonish like just ideas of this is what a villain is. He's like he probably like just watched shows and was like, oh, I gotta be like that. Okay,
yeah,
that's what I must do. I am destined for this. And so it's all just these kind of outlandish ideas of villainy, but he's not that. Like, he's funny, and he's just having a good time. Like, he's like, Minion, do I look bad? Oh, disgustingly horrifying, sir. And like, he's just like, it's all show. He's getting himself ready. He's an actor.
Yeah.
He's literally
just trying to be something.
Yeah.
And like, he's super talented with all this stuff and the things that he made. The dehydration gun's the best, or the D gun.
Yeah.
He only uses the non-lethal version.
Yeah.
He does other lethal stuff, but he only uses the non-lethal part. He's not evil. He's not actually a villain. He is just doing the role. And as we see, when his plan is not working because his death ray is not ready.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The sun is warming up.
Just a teeny tiny minute. And so like it's going on wrong. And
the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs guy.
Yeah. There's definitely similarities.
Right in this movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And literally the what do I get to stamp my frequent kidnapping card? You of all people know we discontinued that promotion. Like the jokes in this movie are actually pretty good. But right when he thinks that it's failing, he's like, all right, well, and he just ends it. He like cuts the show. Yeah. He's like, I'll see you same time next week. And Roxanne's like, yep. And they're about to end it. And that's when Metro Man decides he wants out of this game. So Metro Man ends it. He ends the charade. He says, I'm done. And it's actually a really bold, brave step. Like super courageous. He trusts that things will be okay because he actually knows Megamind. And he leaves and fakes his death, which is really funny.
Are we going to talk about the super speed in this?
Yeah, by the way, Metro Man's probably one of the strongest characters created. Like if you think about it, there's not a lot of people who beat Metro Man. Did I say Megamind or Metro Man?
Yeah, Metro Man.
All Might.
All Might is not. All Might is getting thrashed. But I'm not gonna lie. All Might is getting thrashed by Metro Man.
Makai, if you're listening, All Might would whoop Goku.
I even said like even Goku, like even in his Ultra Instinct, his newest state probably won't beat Metro Man.
Like
how is he that talented?
Do you know how long it took him to have an existential crisis and then solve it? It was like a flick, like, and it's actually foreshadowed because in the screen you see his image like just flicker for a moment, just a moment, and then that whole time he like got sad and just left. The scene where he goes, he just sighs and then just kind of fades away.
Like 30,000 books, hangs out at the park and flies a kite
that's not moving, and drinks someone's drink and eats fries and reads a whole book. It was just like not even
like in a blink.
1/10 of a second.
So speaking of existential, though, there's actually a moment that I think is really profound.
I've been watching The Bird in the Cup.
Oh yeah, I have it on my computer right now.
So that's after Megamind.
Yeah,
you'll see. It's after Megamind kills Metro Man, goes on his spree, and then is now in his office.
So. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, okay, there's going to be a bird somewhere in this movie if Jason picked it. And so I was like, okay, there it is. There's the bird.
Yes.
Actually might be my favorite, like, 10 seconds of the movie is this little moment here.
Iron Man 2 callback. Let's go. Yeah. I hear it. I peep it.
I'm glad you understood that reference.
Yep. I won my board. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So the bird, the motif of the drinking bird whenever you see it is that it always drinks. It's always thirsty, but it's never satisfied. Now, Megamind spells that out because this is a kid's movie. But nonetheless, so he says that. And then he says, I understand you little well-dressed bird, purposeless emptiness. It's a vacuum, isn't it? It's a short moment where he's watching this bird. But again, something is crying out to be authentic. So this might interrupt your flow, Jason, but I had a question I wanted to ask you about that scene.
Oh, good. I will flow it.
So have you or anyone else at this table, has anyone ever felt like this before?
Dude, I get you. Yeah.
Because I have.
It's the absurdity of life, the
Mm-hmm.
ecclesiastic vanity right there. Yes, I felt it.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick?
Yes. I want to feel something else.
I'm gonna get you that bird for your birthday.
I used to have one.
Cried out.
It's gonna be the penguin.
Oh my gosh, Danny DeVito's penguin drinking. Oh my! Now I gotta try to find that. That'd be amazing.
Sure, you can
Not gonna get you.
Get somebody like on Etsy to make it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be the rubber ducky.
Oh, that's even. You get me that one too. So yeah, but that's what I really want to like stop and take a second on this moment here, right? Is because I think when you have that nature versus nurture like pull, that tension, right? And when we get to my episode, I'm going to kind of talk about that. Cool. I didn't even plan for it, but I'll talk about that tension a little bit in my life as well. Because I think the key to being authentic is you have to accept certain things about yourself, of where you come from. But at the same time, you have to not be willing to settle for those things to define you. And that's where identity, people get in debates about, is identity more fixed or is it more fluid and dynamic? And there's aspects of your identity that are both. And I think a lot of people will debate which one it is. But I think the beautiful thing that this film illustrates about archetypes in terms of identity is that even if you are cast into a certain archetype, even if society and your upbringing casts you into that, because we all have certain archetypes that we fall into because of how we were raised. But we could transcend those archetypes. We can learn to leverage the other archetypes that we're not using. We can learn to not be defined by those things. And I think that's what's awesome is that Megamind wants a taste of a more heroic archetype.
Yeah.
And that's where the outlaw becomes the revolutionary, because the outlaw is the revolutionary when they've been cast aside.
Yeah.
When society doesn't have a need for them. And when they're the revolutionary, they come to the forefront and they take that center stage. And that's what Megamind does in this film by the end, is he really is able to rally people around his genius, around his intellect, around what he has there, So I just think that's really cool. I think that's just an awesome moment there, and just thematically how it ties into what you're sharing.
Yeah, and I think it's a really crucial moment for us. I know it was for me, because I realized, and that's what led me to the discipleship program, is I was sitting in my friend's family's RV in their front yard. I'd come back from college, not get the jobs that I wanted, and went right back to working at Chick-fil-A where I left, and just feeling, and I went back to my old church and tried to get a young adult single, and that wasn't working. My church was splitting, and I was just like chasing everything. Some things I was getting, some things I wasn't, and I'm just like, I'm just, at the end of the day, I'm in this empty RV, this dark, empty closet, which is a one-room house, and there's curtains that close around my bedroom, and I'm just thinking, this sucks. I'm just always thirsty.
Yeah.
And I left what I knew and went somewhere completely different, and it was the best decision of my life. And Megamind, it's a super important moment of realizing the archetype I thought I was supposed to be in is not fulfilling me. And if this is what I was destined to do, why is it not fulfilling?
Since you're familiar with the archetypes, Jason, what would you say was that archetype that you were being cast in, and what's the archetype that you feel like now you've really embraced?
Oh dear, I don't really think in terms of archetypes. And I was gonna get personal with it. I can do that now. I was gonna do it later. It's not so easy for us because we don't have a movie from birth till now to watch of ourselves.
Yeah.
But we have stories, we have pictures, we have our parents sometimes. And from my birth, it seems, I was curious. I was a curious person. I would take my middle finger and jam it into the rotary of the rotary phone and just spin it, or hit this one little message button all the time. And I would just seek things out. That's the story when I almost drowned. I think I told you guys that. They were rebuilding the fence between our house and another property, and there was a pool with a pool cover, and I was like 3 or 4, and I have vague memories of it. And I poked the pool cover to make sure it was solid enough to stand on, and my 3-year-old strong arm could not push the pool cover underwater. So I was like, okay, I can walk on this. I am not Metro Man. I sank real quick. And I remember this, and I was told this. I did not panic. I did not freak out. I was just suspended in the water, reaching for my stick, wasn't afraid. I was just pulled out the water. I was upset because my shoes were soaked. My mom was like upset. And that's all I remember. But the curiosity and like the figuring out, to me, I mean, I could go as far back as I can and see, okay, what of my environment spurred that?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like at that point, it's so early that would not be a question I need answered.
Mm-hmm.
Because as early enough as it mattered for that, I was a curious person. I wanted to figure things out, and I wanted to understand things. And so that's the nature. And then my environment had shaped it. And the things that were said about me as a kid was I was weird. I was a weird kid. And I did not have a lot of friends in middle school. I was okay in elementary because I did have some good friends that stayed with me. I had minions. No. I had good friends that I made in pre-K and in kindergarten or elementary school that stayed with me even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I have strong friends that are like that I still know from that because I haven't moved a lot. I've stayed in one city, really, in one environment for most of my life.
But that moment when you made that decision to go start in being a part of that discipleship program, that was your curiosity, but it was coming from you, right?
Oh, that wasn't. That was
No?
Everything's bad. I think this is where the Lord wants me to go.
Because
I'm
but you didn't
seeking
make
all
that decision to go?
What, to go to 516?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't out of curiosity.
Oh,
I knew what I was gonna. I did
Oh,
not
interesting.
want.
Okay.
I did not want that. I was
Yeah.
not curious about the inner city. I was not curious about
Interesting.
giving up
Okay.
all this stuff for 10 months. I didn't want any of that. That was putting my life on the cross.
Mm.
That was saying, okay, I'm not choosing my. It's different than the movie because the movie's not truth. At least to me, it helps I understand it. But in that, I forsook the destiny I wanted for myself and the archetype I thought society said was successful,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to see what I guess God's archetype was for me.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I was told I was weird. I didn't have a lot of friends. And so the curiosity and not fitting into social norms was bad. And I was set apart as an individual in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I did as a coping mechanism, and it happened when I was older, is I was never left the weird label. And so I just like took it. I was like, all right, fine. Like the way that I act is always, whether I try to or not, is seen as different, then I'm just gonna not hide it. Like you're gonna see the difference, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
Not in like a mean way, but like I took the gifts and just kind of maybe was too flagrant with them. I don't know how to explain it, but maybe too showy. I was like, oh, this is my personality. You're all gonna see it, and that was like a coping mechanism or a way to like. It was my idea of strength of wanting,
kind of flaunting it.
I wanted the strength of confidence in my own. Like, oh, this is who I am? Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. I gave myself my own validation, and I won people over, not like maliciously, but like I accepted it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, and I'm not going to hide it. And that was also my way of filtering out people. Like, if you don't like this, then you're going to know real quick that we're not going to be compatible. And so that kept me away from rejection as people found out who I was because they saw right at the gate.
Would you say the seeker archetype was your archetype that led you into that space in the RV?
No, it was COVID and my parents were old and afraid.
Your curiosity, your seeking, your worldview, would you say is the seeker archetype then? And then switching to this new role and new community, did a new archetype emerge or did you develop another one?
So
what did you step into and what did you step out of?
Yeah.
So I don't think the seeker archetype led me to it, but that's been a main one for me that I would say I guess I could say identify, or I would say defines me the best.
The seeker archetype led to your alienation.
Yes, it did.
Then
the seeker archetype led to my alienation, and I think my desire for acceptance and the scripture of do unto others as you would like done to yourself. I became the caretaker archetype because I wanted a caretaker. And that was my way of helping others because I wanted to empathize. I wanted to understand other people, and this is how I did it. And so I wanted to be a good friend, and I was a good friend when I was in the discipleship program because of Javaris, who had a lot of health issues, and that kind of came to the forefront when it didn't always need to. And that was pulled out and pulled to the front. And I think that's kind of taken a back seat now. And the seeker has come out more. And the other ones that I can't remember that I did with you. But my idea of religion pushed me harder into the caretaker archetype than I think I was supposed to go.
Yeah.
And now it's leveling out. And of course, the jester, vice, comfort, and distraction when I was upset with things was always there as well. And it didn't always pull me into a good situation or a good way of living, but did also help me like have friends.
Yeah, the jester also is the one who brings joy. They're very good at bringing people together, helping create new experiences. So like a jester and a seeker work like those when those archetypes work together. Those are like some of the best people to be around because they're going to challenge you into new experiences, right? This is what you do really well with your students. As you bring it, but you bring it, you do it not just for yourself, but you do it because you want them to genuinely experience something that has really enhanced your life and can enhance theirs as well. So
and then the caretaker walks in with them too, and that goes into food.
Yeah, you're able to use that archetype that you developed over those years, and now it's beautiful, man. I love seeing it.
And food is something that was there. That my dad was good at cooking, not good at teaching. I love you, Dad. And so I was like, no, I don't want to learn. And then I went to college and then I came back. I was like, wait a minute, I really liked eating food. So let me call my dad. And that relationship kind of built back up as I would call my dad and get the recipes and experiment. And I came into my gifts. I chose it. The seeker came out, the caretaker, because I was cooking for other people. The gesture, because I was like, you know what, this would be fun if I just did this. I would just go like some completely off the wall thing. And I did stuff that was fun, that was new. Like I would I wonder how sausage is made. So I'm going to go buy a friggin' meat grinder and make sausage. I'm just going to do it. That's the seeker and that's the gesture. Why? Because it's fun. That'd be funny to do that. Yeah. What if I added this? And I put cinnamon into Javaris's beefaroni by accident. Because I thought it was cumin, and so I just dressed it up, and I never told him. I was like, he went to the grave not knowing that junk went in there. And now I put cinnamon in things just to see if I can get away with it. But you guys might have eaten something I made that I just threw cinnamon into. That's chemical X for me.
Chemical X.
So, so those are the things where like I started to understand, okay, this is kind of the nature. I believe that's how God created me. And the environment will either shift you or like form how that's expressed or where you think, in the case of this movie, how you think it's supposed to be applied.
Yeah.
So God made you a certain way if you believe in Christ and how the Lord has created us and knit us together. Sometimes our environment and what we hear and what's instilled in us can kind of fuzz up what we believe is supposed to be how we express how God's made us and how much of a choice we have in it. And I think it's especially dangerous when the people at the church say the Christian sayings that they don't immediately have like a backing to for scripture. Like they'll say things that they've heard and just have been passed down through word of mouth tradition, but there's no weight to it. Because if you are like, wait a minute, where does it say that? You'll start to find, okay, well, where does that come from? And I think there is choice in what we want to do, and God may correct or may not, because Joe, you wanted to be a park ranger and you still want to, and it does not seem like God is inhibiting that, but he did say
that I need to do something.
You got to be here for, you got to do this.
90 years.
90 years. So God and the Holy Spirit will lead you, if we have hope that he is who he says he is, he will lead you to where you're supposed to go. But also some things were given to me because I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or do that. And I pray with someone and they're like, what do you, like, maybe God wants to give you the desires of your heart. Like maybe he wants to give you that, the good desires. And I was given that.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of fate and destiny has been convoluted away from God's word and his true character, which is different than the movie. But to go back to the movie, so what happens is he goes this journey. He tries to.
No, I was gonna say I wanted to like kind of connect something to that.
Okay.
Like when we eventually get to my movie, when we're talking about 300, a big theme of it that I recognize is like the free man. Like, what would a free man do? But it kind of tying to, like, again, if we're looking at it at a Christian aspect, yes, God has given us these things to make our choices, and he's still going to guide us, but he can trust in you to make these choices as well because he gave you the free will. So that's what I was just thinking as you were talking about.
And if he has a specific purpose, he'll bring you to it. Yeah, so Megamind, he tries to do this self-fulfilling prophecy and create. He doesn't challenge where he was put. He tries to bring it back because he's like, there was stability in this, and now there's no stability. He didn't even have a window. So his life was torturous. The window represents vision and opportunities and possibilities, and he did not have that. He literally can't see out of his situation. And it's not until they meet Metro Man in the truth and that he's like, look, I'm sorry, but he stands the ground and says, I'm sorry, but no, I'm done. There's evil, good will rise up. And imagine Megamind hearing that from his rival, from Metro Man, that you too could be good. I mean, he rejects it at first, but like, it's such a powerful, powerful moment. Like, I might tear it. Like, he's challenging it with, when he says maybe Megamind isn't so bad after all, and he's with Roxanne because Roxanne, the seeker, is bringing the true identity of who he is out. And he's able to, with a mask, coincidentally, show his true free self, who he really is. And it's so cool how it's when he actually confronts evil and selfishness, which is natural and also probably environmental. But here's the thing, Megamind has a worse environment than Hal, but Hal does not have confidence. He does not have the endurance and the fight to keep going like Mega Man does, even though he'll lose, just like he does not take accountability. And
that's Jonah Hill?
Yeah. That's Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill represents someone who thinks he's deserved things, but also does not have personal strength. And I was like that at one point where I was just like, oh, things are pointless. I'm not going to get this. I give up. You know what? I'm just getting what I want. And when Megamind's confronted with that brings out the truth in him. It's like, that's not what good is.
Yeah.
And he's mad for him. Like, you have all of these gifts, all these talents, and now he's calling himself out.
Yeah.
And then it's when the truth is attacked and in danger, the seeker, person who wants the truth, who's attacked, and the person he loves, that brings out his true gifts, his gifts were always out there, but his true nature of who he is.
Yeah.
And he saves and he wins. That's the thing with bad guys. They always lose. And there's a lot of great quotes that we can't say because we're out of time, but man, it's a very quotable movie. There's no fairy tale, right?
Because there is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Queen of England. It's
amazing.
not living in a fairy tale.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So my encouragement would be there might be some work and some unraveling of, okay, what has kind of been my leaning or, what I've been just naturally good at since almost the beginning of time for yourself. I mean, and even, what things might have been skills that developed out of the environment that you were in that could be good, but just maybe thinking about, okay, what was said over me that has trapped me in a spot where I feel like I've needed to put my gifts in that way. And of course, who the Lord says you are and the identity. and not what the world says you have to be. There is freedom in Christ.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Well, thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you
Thanks for taking us
Megamind.
through Megamind and bringing us this. I think the nature versus nurture, there's a lot you can have with that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not always fighting.
Yeah.
No. It's integrating.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Without my
integration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, next time on our authenticity series, we got Joe's pick coming up.
Yes.
400
which is definitely a kid's movie as well, right?
300.5. Like Lion King 1.5.
Underwear and capes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's CGI.
Yeah.
Maybe it has more in common than we thought. Anyways, join us for that next time. And until then,
hello.
Thank you for listening to the Live a Meaningful Story podcast, produced by All Things Narrative. If you'd like to learn more about our coaching, workshops, events, please check out allthingsnarrative.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at All Things Narrative. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and tune in next time as we continue exploring the stories we love and the stories we live. Take care.